Get her out of my courtroom. Judge Whitmore stood up, slamming his gavel repeatedly, his face burning red. This court will not be lectured by some black girl from Atlanta. Maya Williams did not blink. She pointed straight at Deputy Caleb Whitmore, who stood near the front like the courtroom belonged to his family. You mean you want your son to throw me out, don't you, Your Honor? The room went dead silent. The smug smile on Caleb's face vanished. Judge Whitmore clenched his jaw and leaned over the bench. Shut your mouth and sit down, counselor. I'll sit down, Maya said, stepping forward. When the officer accused of brutality is no longer allowed to play guard for his own father in the hearing against him. Caleb moved fast, one hand dropping near his holster. You better shut up. Or what, deputy? Maya looked straight at him. You'll turn off your body cam again? Like you did with Marcus Reed before he ended up slammed against your patrol car? Then run back here and hide behind your father's robe? Silence. Judge Whitmore hammered the gavel again and again. You are being held in contempt of court. No. Maya's voice cut through the noise, cold and steady. You and your son are the ones holding this court in contempt. A dirty deputy protected by a crooked judge. A son with a badge sheltered by a father with a gavel. You are not running a courtroom, Arthur. You are running a family business. Caleb's face twisted. Say that again. Maya turned to him. Your body cam recorded 11 minutes and 17 seconds before it went dark. 6 minutes and 4 seconds disappeared. Not by accident, not by malfunction. Manually. That's a lie. The system log says otherwise. Marcus Reed resisted. The pharmacy video shows his hands were up. He reached. The video shows both hands visible. He moved wrong. Maya paused. Moved wrong? Caleb stepped closer. Men like him always move wrong when they're about to cause trouble. Maya's eyes narrowed. Men like him, Judge Whitmore snapped. Do not twist his words. I don't have to, Maya said. He said exactly what he meant. Caleb reached across the table and ripped the evidence folder from her hand. Marcus Reed stood. Hey, Maya raised one hand without looking away from Caleb. Mr. Reed, stay seated. Caleb flipped the folder open and dumped the pages onto the floor. Body cam logs. Still shots from the pharmacy video. Marcus Reed's complaint. A red-marked timeline of the missing footage. He looked down at the papers and smiled. This your big case? Then he stepped on the body cam log. Slowly, his boot pressed into the paper, grinding across the red timeline. That's where your evidence belongs. Maya looked down at the crushed pages. Then she looked back at him. She said nothing. No anger. No fear. Just a calm, unwavering stare. For the first time, Caleb's smile weakened. Judge Whitmore pointed toward the doors. Deputy Whitmore, remove her. Caleb grabbed Maya by the arm. Maya turned toward the bench. Let the record show the judge's son is removing Marcus Reed's counsel from a hearing about his own misconduct. Get her out, Whitmore shouted. Caleb pulled her toward the doors. Marcus rose again. She's my lawyer, Judge Whitmore barked. Sit down, Mr. Reed, unless you want to be next. Maya gave Marcus one calm look, enough to stop him. As Caleb dragged her past the scattered documents, he leaned close and muttered, In this county, black girls don't give orders. Maya finally spoke, low and sharp. You will learn. Caleb shoved the doors open and pulled her out under his father's order, leaving the crushed evidence on the floor and the whole courtroom staring at the boot print he had been arrogant enough to leave behind. Caleb shoved Maya into the hallway hard enough to make the courthouse doors swing behind them, but not hard enough to make her stumble. That seemed to irritate him more than if she had fallen. You hear your client in there? Caleb said, keeping his hand clamped around her upper arm. Man still thinks you can save him. Maya looked down at his fingers, then back at his face. Take your hand off me. You don't give orders here. No, she said. I give warnings. Caleb laughed, but it came out tight. You just got thrown out of court. I was removed by the subject of the hearing, on the order of that subject's father, after presenting evidence that the same subject manually disabled his body cam during a civil rights incident. Caleb's grip loosened for half a second. Maya noticed. You rehearsed that? He asked. No. I document it. The doors opened behind them. Marcus Reed stepped out first, anger written all over his face. His wife grabbed his sleeve with both hands, trying to hold him back. Naomi Brooks came after them. One hand pressed against the pocket where her backup phone was hidden. Clara Jenkins stood in the doorway, pale, silent, watching like a woman who had seen the same lie told too many times. Caleb turned. "All of you get back inside." Marcus pointed at him. "You had no right to put your hands on her." Caleb smiled. "Careful, Marcus. You already know how resisting looks on paper." Maya stepped between them. "Mr. Reed, do not respond to him. He dragged you out, and he wants you angry enough to forget where you are." Marcus's chest rose and fell. He looked at Caleb, then at Maya. Slowly, painfully, he backed down. Caleb leaned closer to Maya. "That's right. Train him." Maya's eyes lifted to his. "Say it again." Caleb's mouth twitched. "Go on," she said. "Say it clearly this time." He looked toward the open courtroom doors. Too many people were watching now. That made him hesitate. Maya turned slightly, raising her voice just enough for the hallway to hear. "For the record, Deputy Caleb Whitmore has removed counsel for Marcus Reed from an active hearing, damaged defense evidence, and is now attempting to intimidate the complaining witness." Caleb stepped toward her. "There is no record out here," Naomi said. "There is now." Caleb's head snapped toward her. "You were told to stop recording." Naomi kept her voice even. "I was told unlawfully. You want to lose that phone too?" Maya cut in. "Deputy, threatening a journalist after your father ordered the seizure of her first phone is not helping you. My father is the judge, and that is the problem." The words hit him. For a moment, Caleb looked less like a deputy and more like a spoiled son who had never been told no in a room where it mattered. Inside the courtroom, Judge Whitmore's voice echoed through the half-open doors. "Deputy Whitmore." Caleb did not move. The judge appeared at the threshold, robe hanging loose around his shoulders, fury poorly hidden beneath the formal black cloth. "What is going on out here?" Maya answered before Caleb could. "Your son is continuing the same misconduct you ordered inside the courtroom." Judge Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "You are no longer recognized by this court, Miss Williams." "I am recognized by my client," Marcus said. "She's my lawyer." Judge Whitmore looked at him. "Mr. Reed, one more outburst and I will revoke your release pending further proceedings." Marcus's wife whispered, "Marcus, please." Maya turned to him. "Don't give them the picture they came here to take. If you feel for Maya in this moment, for her courage, her calm, and the way she protects Marcus even while they are trying to silence her, please like this video and comment where you are watching from, because you never know. Someone near you might be watching this story right now too." Marcus swallowed the words he wanted to throw. Judge Whitmore looked satisfied. "Good. Now you are learning." Maya faced him again. "No, Your Honor. He is surviving." Caleb scoffed. "Everybody's a victim when you people get in trouble." Maya held his stare. "You keep saying you people, like the phrase does not say more about you than about us." Judge Whitmore snapped. "Enough. This courthouse will not be turned into a race circus by some public interest attorney looking for headlines." Naomi raised her eyebrows. "Public interest attorney?" Maya did not correct the judge. She let the assumption stand. Let them keep believing she was small. Let them keep talking. Judge Whitmore pointed at her folder, still crushed and scattered inside the courtroom. "You came here with accusations, theatrics, and paper. That paper had your son's boot print on it before this hearing was 10 minutes old. Because you created disorder. Because your son panicked when I named the missing 6 minutes." Caleb said, "Those 6 minutes don't prove anything." Maya turned back to him. "Then, why did you turn off the camera?" "I told you. Equipment fails." "Then why did the system log show manual shutdown?" "Logs can be misunderstood." "Then why did the camera come back only after Marcus was already cuffed?" "He was secured by then." "Secured from what?" Caleb opened his mouth. Maya stepped closer. "From the raised hands in the pharmacy video? From the man saying he wasn't resisting? From the witness across the street? From the truth your report could not survive?" Caleb's face flushed. "You don't know anything about policing. I know when a camera goes dark right before force is used. Somebody wanted darkness." The hallway went silent again. Judge Whitmore's voice became low. "Miss Williams, You are dangerously close to contempt. Maya looked at him. No, Arthur. I am dangerously close to discovery. The judge froze at the use of his first name. Caleb moved instantly. Don't call him that. Maya did not look away from the judge. When a judge protects his son, blocks evidence, threatens a defendant, and lets that son trample documents in open court, he is no longer acting like the court. He is acting like Arthur Whitmore, father of Caleb Whitmore. Judge Whitmore's face turned a deeper red. You arrogant little... He stopped himself, but too late. The room had heard enough of the sentence to know where it was going. Clara Jenkins lowered her eyes. Her fingers trembled against the folder pressed to her chest. Maya saw it. A court clerk did not tremble like that because of one bad morning. She trembled because she knew where records were buried. Caleb grinned eagerly and lunged straight toward Naomi to snatch the backup phone. Maya instantly stepped in, blocking Caleb's path. Unable to break in time, he slammed right into her. Infuriated by the obstruction, Caleb used both hands to lock Maya's arms, wrenching them behind her back and dragging her violently toward the exit. Marcus was about to charge forward blindly, but Maya shouted fiercely, "Marcus, stand down. Let him break the law." Caleb leaned close to Maya's ear. You really think you're brave? Maya looked at the hallway, at Naomi's hidden phone, at Clara's trembling hands, at Marcus trying not to break, at the judge pretending the law still belonged to him. No, she said. I think you're careless. Caleb dragged her toward the side doors of the courthouse. Behind them, Judge Whitmore called out, "Let the record show Miss Williams was removed for repeated disorderly conduct." Clara Jenkins looked down at the blank line waiting on her page. For the first time all morning, she did not type what he said. Caleb dragged Maya through the side doors and into the outer corridor where defendants usually waited before being called. He released her only when they were far enough from the courtroom for Judge Whitmore's voice to fade behind the walls. There, Caleb said, straightening his uniform. Out of the room, out of the hearing, out of my way. Maya smoothed the sleeve where his hand had wrinkled the fabric. You forgot one thing. Caleb gave her a hard look. What? You left your boot print on the evidence. His expression tightened. And you did it in front of witnesses, Maya added. He stepped closer. You think anybody in there is going to testify against me? Maya looked past him toward the closed doors. I think people get tired, Caleb. Even scared people. Especially scared people. He laughed under his breath. You don't know this county. No, Maya said. But I know men who mistake silence for loyalty. The side door opened again. Naomi Brooks slipped out first, keeping her jacket closed with one hand. Marcus Reed followed, his wife beside him, whispering his name like a prayer. Clara Jenkins came last, clutching a stack of papers to her chest. She stopped when she saw Caleb, then looked away too quickly. Caleb noticed. What are you carrying, Clara? The clerk froze. Court copies. Bring them here. Maya turned her head. Deputy. She is court staff. Not your personal runner. Caleb ignored her. Clara. Clara took one small step back. Judge Whitmore asked me to prepare the recess notation. Then, prepare it. I need the file. You need to do what you're told. Maya watched Clara's hand tighten around the papers. The woman's fear was not new. It was practiced, the kind that came from years of being corrected in private and threatened in polite language. Marcus could not hold back. This is how it works, isn't it? Y'all write down whatever you want, and folks like me just live with it. Caleb turned on him. Folks like you usually give us plenty to write. Maya stepped between them again. Every time you speak, you make the complaint stronger. Caleb leaned toward her. You don't have a complaint anymore. You have a client without a lawyer, and a judge who's about to put you in contempt, Naomi said quietly. She still has video. Caleb's eyes snapped to her. What did you say? Naomi lifted her chin. I said people saw what happened. You think that makes you safe? No, Naomi said. I think it makes you nervous. Caleb started toward her, but Maya moved first. Not aggressively, just enough to block his path. You already seized one phone without a warrant, Maya said. Touch her again, and you make it two. Caleb's nostrils flared. Aren't you tired of hearing yourself talk? Not as tired as you are of being recorded. For a second, the hallway held still. Then Judge Whitmore pushed through the door, robe sweeping behind him. He looked at Clara first. Why is the recess order not on my desk? Clara swallowed. I was preparing it, Judge. Preparing is not filing. Maya looked at him. Filing what, exactly? Judge Whitmore turned slowly. You are still here. You ordered me removed from the courtroom, not from representing my client. You have been disruptive since the moment you entered this building. I asked for bodycam footage. You accused a deputy. I identified the deputy whose camera went dark. You attacked the integrity of this court. I questioned why a father is ruling on his son's misconduct. The judge's lips pressed into a thin line. That is enough. No, Maya said. Enough is when the missing 6 minutes are produced. Enough is when the pharmacy video is admitted. Enough is when Marcus Reed gets a hearing that is not supervised by the father of the man who arrested him. Caleb snapped. You keep saying father like that means something dirty. Maya looked at him. It became dirty when he used the bench to protect your badge. Judge Whitmore lifted one finger. Miss Williams, I am warning you for the last time. You have been warning me all morning. You have not answered a single motion. Clara's eyes flicked to Maya, then down again. Judge Whitmore caught it. Clara, return to chambers. Clara did not move. The judge's voice hardened. Now, her face went pale. Yes, Judge. As she passed Maya, one paper slipped from the stack and brushed Maya's shoe. Caleb reached down, but Maya was faster. She picked it up and saw only a few words before Clara took it back. Draft order, counsel removed, disorderly conduct, no reference to evidence. Maya looked at Clara. Clara did not speak, but her eyes said everything. The record was being rewritten. Judge Whitmore saw the exchange. Give that to me. Clara held the paper out with shaking fingers. Maya said, Your Honor, are you preparing an order describing events that occurred in front of witnesses before allowing counsel to review the record? It is not your concern. It became my concern when you erased the boot print. Caleb muttered. Here we go again. Maya turned to Naomi. Did you capture him stepping on the file? Naomi hesitated just long enough for Caleb to notice. His face changed. You still have another phone. Naomi stepped back. Caleb moved toward her. Marcus moved too. But Maya's voice cut across the hallway. Marcus, no. He stopped. Fists clenched. Caleb reached for Naomi's coat. Maya blocked him. Judge Whitmore barked. Deputy, secure the device. Maya said. That is an unlawful seizure of press material. Judge Whitmore snapped. It is evidence of disruption. No, Maya said. It is evidence of you. Caleb grabbed at Naomi's sleeve. Naomi twisted away, pulling the second phone from her pocket just enough to keep it out of his reach. You delete one video, she said, breath tight, and another one goes up. Caleb froze. Judge Whitmore's voice dropped. Miss Brooks, you are obstructing court security. Naomi looked at Maya. For a moment, fear almost won. Then she said, Court security is the man being investigated. That sentence landed harder than anyone expected. Caleb's face went red. Give me the phone. No, Naomi said. Caleb reached again. Maya stepped in, shoulder between them. Deputy Whitmore, stop. Caleb glared down at her. Or what? Maya held his stare. Or you add retaliation against the press to unlawful removal of counsel, destruction of evidence, witness intimidation, and concealment of bodycam footage. Judge Whitmore said, You are manufacturing charges out of thin air. No, Arthur, Maya said. Your son is manufacturing them in real time. The judge's eyes flashed at his first name. You will address me as Your Honor. Maya's voice stayed level. Then act like one. Caleb grabbed her arm again. That's it. Maya did not resist. She turned just enough toward Naomi and said, Back it up again. Naomi understood. Her thumb moved across the phone screen. Caleb saw it and lunged for the device, but Marcus stepped into his path, not touching him, just standing there. Caleb smiled. You want another resisting charge? Marcus's voice shook, but he held his ground. I want my lawyer left alone. Judge Whitmore pointed at him. Mr. Reed, You are one word away from jail, Maya said. He said 6 words, and none of them were a crime. The hallway filled with whispers now. People from other courtrooms had begun watching. Older men in work shirts, women with purses tucked under their arms, a janitor holding a mop handle like he had forgotten why he was there. The lie was no longer happening behind closed doors. Judge Whitmore noticed the crowd and lowered his voice. Deputy, take Miss Williams downstairs. I will sign the contempt order. Maya looked at Clara, who stood frozen near the chamber door. Clara's hand slipped into the pocket of her cardigan. Maya saw the small black edge of a USB drive. Caleb yanked Maya toward the elevator. As they passed Clara, the clerk whispered so softly only Maya heard, "There are more records." Maya did not turn her head. She only answered, "Then don't let him write this one." Caleb pulled her forward. What did she say? Maya looked at him with the same calm stare that had already broken his smile once. She said you should have left the camera on. Caleb pulled Maya toward the elevator, but she stopped before the doors opened. He looked back. Move. Maya glanced at his hand on her arm. You keep grabbing people when your answers run out. His grip tightened. My answers are fine. Then answer one. I don't answer to you. You turned off the camera manually. Why? Caleb smiled, but it was too forced now. You're obsessed with that camera. No. I'm interested in the dark. The elevator bell rang. Caleb pushed the button again like that would make the doors open faster. Behind them, Naomi lifted her backup phone. Deputy Whitmore. Did you hear the question? Caleb spun. Put that away. Did you manually disable your body cam before using force on Marcus Reed? Judge Whitmore stepped forward. Miss Brooks, that device is subject to seizure. Naomi did not lower it. Under what order? My order, Maya said. That is not how the First Amendment works, Arthur. The judge's face hardened. You are not in a position to lecture anyone. No, Maya replied. I am in the perfect position. Your son is holding my arm. You are trying to seize a reporter's phone, and nobody has answered why 6 minutes vanished. Caleb released her arm and lunged toward Naomi. Marcus stepped forward again. Don't touch her. Caleb pointed at him. You want to go downstairs too? Marcus's voice shook, but he did not move back. I already know what downstairs feels like. That stopped the hallway for a second. Naomi kept recording. Judge Whitmore looked at the small crowd gathering near the side corridor. His voice dropped into something softer and more dangerous. Everyone return to your assigned courtroom. This is an official court matter. An older man in a brown work jacket muttered, Looks official, all right. Caleb snapped. You got something to say? The man looked down. Maya saw it. Caleb saw it too, and his confidence returned. That's what I thought, Caleb said. Maya turned toward the older man. Sir, you don't have to speak. Just remember what you saw. Judge Whitmore barked. Miss Williams. She looked back at him. Witnesses bother you, don't they? Caleb stepped close again. You think a hallway full of strangers scares us? No, Maya said. I think a hallway full of phones does. At that exact moment, Naomi's editor, a gray-haired man named Frank Bell, came through the security doors, holding his own phone in one hand and reading glasses in the other. Naomi, he called. You all right? Caleb turned. This area is restricted. Frank stopped beside Naomi. I've been covering this courthouse since before you were old enough to lie on a police report. Caleb's face went red. Watch yourself, old man. Frank looked at Maya. They took your file? They stepped on it, Maya said. Frank looked at Caleb's boots. Of course they did. Judge Whitmore cut in. Mr. Bell, if you interfere, I will hold you in contempt as well. Frank nodded slowly. Judge, with respect, I've heard you threaten half this county with contempt. Funny how often it happens when somebody asks for records. The silence changed. It was no longer helpless. It was listening. Clara Jenkins stood near the chamber door, still holding the stack of papers. Her thumb rubbed against the USB hidden in her cardigan pocket. Judge Whitmore noticed her again. Clara, he said. Chambers. Now. She flinched. Maya turned her head only slightly. Clara, did Judge Whitmore instruct you to alter the recess notation? The judge's eyes flashed. Do not answer that. Clara's lips parted, but no sound came out. Caleb laughed. She works for the court, not for you, Maya said. That depends whether the court is still telling the truth. Judge Whitmore stepped down from the threshold and walked closer, his robe moving around him like a warning flag. Miss Williams, you have crossed from advocacy into obstruction. No, I crossed from argument into evidence because you brought the misconduct into the hallway, Caleb said. Lady, you don't know when to stop. Maya looked at him. People like me learned not stopping is how we survive men like you. His eyes sharpened. People like you? Yes, Maya said. People who have to bring receipts because men with badges get believed by default. Frank's phone stayed up. Naomi's phone stayed up. A young court runner near the copy room lifted his too. Judge Whitmore saw it happening. Control leaving his hands one screen at a time. He pointed to a bailiff near the stairs. Secure all recording devices. The bailiff hesitated. Caleb barked. You heard the judge. The bailiff looked at Naomi, at Frank, at Maya, at Marcus. Sir, I'm not sure we can just take everybody's phones. Judge Whitmore turned slowly toward him. Are you refusing a direct order? The bailiff swallowed. No, sir, Maya said. Think carefully. Illegal orders do not become legal because they are spoken loudly. The bailiff froze again. Caleb cursed under his breath and snatched toward Naomi's phone himself. Frank stepped between them, holding up both hands. Don't make this worse, son. Caleb shoved his shoulder into Frank, not enough to knock him down, but enough to push him back. Naomi gasped. Maya's voice cut through the hallway. Retaliation against the press. Add it. Caleb turned on her. Add this. He grabbed the crushed folder from a deputy who had brought it out of the courtroom and threw it at Maya's feet. Several bent pages slid across the floor. Then he stepped on them again. This time, he looked directly into Naomi's camera while doing it. That clear enough for your little video? Maya looked down at the papers. The boot print crossed the body cam log, darker now. Dirt pressed into the line where the footage stopped. She did not bend to pick it up. She did not argue. She only stared at Caleb. A long, silent star. The hallway seemed to shrink around him. The smirk on his face held for 1 second, then 2, then started to crack. What? He snapped. Maya said nothing. What are you looking at? Still nothing. Frank lowered his voice. Deputy, I think she's looking at Exhibit A. The words hit. A few people breathed out. Caleb glanced down at his own boot. Judge Whitmore moved quickly now. Deputy Whitmore, detain Miss Williams. Maya looked from Caleb to the judge. For what charge? Contempt. You cannot hold opposing counsel in contempt because your son lost control in a hallway. Judge Whitmore's voice sharpened. You are not opposing counsel anymore. Marcus shouted. Yes, she is. Maya turned. Marcus. He stopped, but tears had gathered in his eyes now, angry and humiliated. They did this to me, too. I know, Maya said. Caleb pulled out his handcuffs. Naomi whispered, Maya. Maya kept her eyes on Caleb. Make sure the camera gets his hands. Caleb smiled again, meaner now. You really want to be famous? No, Maya said. I want you recorded. Judge Whitmore's order came cold and final. Cuff her. Caleb stepped behind Maya and took her wrist. She did not resist. She raised her chin toward the phones, toward Clara, toward Marcus, toward every person who had spent years looking down when a Whitmore walked by. State the time, Maya said. Naomi answered immediately. 10:18 a.m. Maya continued. I am being detained in the courthouse hallway by Deputy Caleb Whitmore, the officer named in the civil rights complaint, after he destroyed evidence and after Judge Arthur Whitmore, his father, ordered removal of opposing counsel. Caleb snapped one cuff around her wrist. Marcus surged forward, but Frank caught his arm. Don't give them another headline, Marcus. Caleb pulled Maya's other wrist behind her. In this county, he muttered near her ear, black girls don't give orders. Maya turned her head just enough for the cameras to catch her face. Then it's going to hurt, she said. When you hear who does. The second cuff clicked shut. Clara Jenkins closed her eyes. Then, without a word, She slipped the USB from her cardigan pocket into Frank Bell's open hand as Caleb began dragging Maya back toward the courtroom. Caleb pulled Maya back through the courtroom doors with her wrists cuffed behind her, and every voice inside the room died at once. Judge Whitmore returned to the bench like a man trying to put a crown back on after the whole town had seen it fall. He sat down, adjusted his robe, and lifted the gavel. "Let the record show," he said, "that Miss Williams has been detained for contempt of court, obstruction of proceedings, and repeated disorderly conduct." Maya stood beside Caleb, shoulders straight, chin level. "Let the record show," she said, "that the judge is narrating his own misconduct." The gavel cracked down. "One more word, and I will remand you to county custody." "You already handed me to your son," Maya replied. "That is the problem." Caleb leaned close. "Keep talking." Maya turned her head slightly. "Keep standing there." His eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means cameras love confidence." A ripple moved through the gallery. Caleb glanced toward the back of the room. Naomi Brooks had entered behind them, her backup phone still in her hand. Frank Bell stood near her shoulder, holding his own device low but steady. Marcus Reed sat at the defense table, breathing hard, his wife clutching his sleeve. Clara Jenkins stood near the clerk's station, pale, but no longer typing. Judge Whitmore saw the phones and slammed the gavel again. "All recording devices are prohibited until further order of this court." Naomi answered before Maya could. "This is a public hearing. This is a contempt proceeding now," Frank Bell said. "Judge, with respect, it became a public incident when your son cuffed opposing counsel in the hallway." Caleb snapped. "You want cuffs too, old man?" Maya looked at Caleb, threatening a reporter on camera. Again, Judge Whitmore pointed the gavel at Naomi. "Miss Brooks, surrender that device." Naomi did not move. Caleb took one step toward her. Maya's voice cut across the room. "Deputy Whitmore, if you touch that phone, you will be adding unlawful seizure of press material in open court to the list already being preserved." Caleb stopped, then laughed. "There is no list." Marcus Reed rose halfway. "Everybody in here saw it." Judge Whitmore turned sharply. "Mr. Reed, sit down." Marcus did not sit. His voice shook, but he kept going. "He stepped on my evidence. He grabbed my lawyer. He took that reporter's phone. He turned his camera off the night he arrested me. And now, y'all acting like we're the ones causing trouble." Caleb moved toward him. "Sit down before I help you." Maya looked at Marcus. "Mr. Reed," he froze at her tone. "Do not let them turn your truth into their excuse." Marcus swallowed, then sat slowly. Judge Whitmore seized the moment. "The court will note Mr. Reed's unstable behavior." Clara's fingers hovered above the keys. Maya looked straight at her. "Clara." The clerk looked up. "Type what happened," Maya said. "Not what he wishes happened." Judge Whitmore's face hardened. "Clara Jenkins, you will follow this court's instruction." Clara stared at the blank line on her screen. For 30 years, she had typed what men on the bench told her to type. Guilty pleas, fine schedules, continuances, warrants, orders that changed lives with less ink than a grocery list. She had told herself she was just the clerk, just the hands, just the person recording what others decided. But Maya was standing in handcuffs, and Caleb's boot print was still on the paper. Clara slowly removed her hands from the keyboard. Judge Whitmore noticed. "Clara." Her voice came out thin. "I need clarification." "Judge?" The room froze. Judge Whitmore leaned forward. "Excuse me?" "I need clarification on the record," Clara said, still trembling. "Should I include that Deputy Whitmore physically removed counsel, stepped on documents, and placed her in handcuffs after she challenged his bodycam footage?" Caleb's head snapped toward her. "Clara, you better watch it." Maya did not smile. She simply looked at the clerk with a steady kind of respect. Judge Whitmore's voice dropped. "You are very close to retirement." Clara nodded once. "Yes, Judge. I know." Frank Bell lifted his phone higher. That sounded like a threat to a court employee. Judge Whitmore barked. "This court will clear the gallery," Naomi said. "That won't clear the cloud." Caleb turned. "What did you say?" Naomi's fear showed for half a second, then disappeared beneath something harder. The video is backed up. The hallway, the file, the handcuffs, all of it. Caleb stared at her. Maya looked at him. You deleted the wrong copy before. Don't make that mistake twice. Judge Whitmore stood. Deputy, remove Miss Brooks. Caleb started toward Naomi. The courtroom doors opened before he reached her. A young deputy stepped in, uncertain, holding a phone. Judge Whitmore? The judge turned, irritated. What? The deputy swallowed. There are state vehicles outside. The room shifted. Caleb stopped walking. Judge Whitmore's eyes narrowed. What kind of state vehicles? Black SUVs. Government plates. Maya lowered her eyes for one brief second, then lifted them again. Caleb saw it. You called somebody. Maya said nothing. He stepped back toward her. Who did you call? Still, Maya said nothing. Judge Whitmore gripped the edge of the bench. Answer him. Maya looked up at the judge. No. Caleb's voice sharpened. No? You heard me. He grabbed her arm again. You think this is funny? No, Maya said. I think it's late. Late for what? The courtroom doors opened wider. 2 uniformed officers entered first. But they were not county deputies. Behind them came men and women in dark suits, moving with the calm confidence of people who did not need local permission. Then came a woman in a navy suit, silver hair cut to her jaw, eyes fixed not on the judge, not on Caleb, but on Maya. Attorney General Eleanor Grant stepped into the courtroom. Judge Whitmore went still. Caleb's hand fell from Maya's arm. Eleanor walked down the aisle without asking to approach. No one stopped her. No one even tried. She came to a halt in front of Maya, glanced at the cuffs, then at the red marks forming around her wrists. Her voice was quiet, but the whole room heard it. Boss, are you hurt? The word hit harder than the gavel ever had. Caleb whispered, Boss? Maya met Eleanor's eyes. Not enough to stop the hearing. Eleanor turned to Caleb. Her expression did not change, and somehow that made it worse. Remove the cuffs from Assistant Special Prosecutor Williams. Now. Caleb did not move. One of the officers behind Eleanor stepped forward. Caleb looked at his father. For the first time that day, Judge Arthur Whitmore had no order ready. The officer unlocked the cuffs. The metal opened with a small click that sounded, to Marcus Reed, like the first honest thing that room had said all morning. Maya brought her hands forward and rubbed one wrist. Then she looked down at Caleb's boot print across the evidence folder lying near the table. Eleanor followed her gaze. What is that? The Attorney General asked. Maya answered without looking away from Caleb. State evidence, she said. With the deputy's signature on it, Eleanor Grant crouched just enough to pick up the first page from the floor, but she did not touch it with her bare hand. One of the investigators behind her immediately handed over an evidence sleeve. That small, careful gesture changed the room. A paper Caleb had treated like trash was now being preserved like a weapon. Caleb looked at the sleeve, then at his father. This is insane. Maya said, No. This is procedure. You may not recognize it. Eleanor slid the boot-marked bodycam log into the sleeve and handed it back to the investigator. Photograph every page before it moves. Chain of custody starts now. Judge Whitmore found his voice. Madam Attorney General, this is still my courtroom. Eleanor turned to him. For the moment, the answer was quiet. It did not need to be louder. Whitmore's face tightened. You cannot storm into a county proceeding and disrupt a sitting judge. I did not disrupt this proceeding, Eleanor said. Your son did when he seized counsel, damaged evidence, and placed the state's attorney in handcuffs. Caleb stepped forward. She wasn't state's attorney. She said she was Reed's lawyer. Maya looked at him. I let you believe that. His eyes narrowed. You lied. No, Maya said. You assumed a young black woman at counsel table could only be small enough for you to manhandle. That struck him harder than an accusation. Eleanor faced the room. For clarity, Maya Williams is Assistant Special Prosecutor assigned by the Office of the Georgia Attorney General to the Ashford County Civil Rights Inquiry. She entered this courtroom with full authority to represent the state's interest in this hearing and to challenge any conflict affecting due process. Caleb swallowed. Assistant Special Prosecutor? Maya held his stare. You heard her. Judge Whitmore pointed at Maya. She never identified herself as such. Eleanor looked back at him. Was her legal argument less valid when you thought she was merely a public interest attorney? Was the missing body cam footage less missing? Was your conflict less obvious? Was your son less your son? Whitmore opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Naomi Brooks lifted her backup phone higher. Eleanor noticed and said, "Miss Brooks, keep recording." Judge Whitmore snapped. "I ordered recording devices seized, and that order is now under review," Eleanor replied. Along with the first phone taken from her, one of the federal marshals turned to Caleb. "Where is the device?" Caleb stiffened. "It was secured." The marshal did not blink. "Where?" "In the deputy station." "Retrieve it." Caleb looked to his father again. Eleanor's voice sharpened for the first time. "Deputy Whitmore, you are no longer taking instructions from the bench." The room heard it. So did the judge. Caleb forced a laugh. "You people really think you can come down here and take over?" Eleanor stepped closer. "You people?" Caleb realized too late that he had said it again. Maya's voice was calm. He has a limited vocabulary under stress. A few people in the gallery let out a breath that almost became laughter, but nobody dared let it fully live. Eleanor turned to one of her attorneys. "Note the statement." The attorney wrote it down. Caleb stared. "You're writing down words now?" Maya said. "We started with your camera. You insisted on adding dialogue." Marcus Reed slowly stood. This time, Judge Whitmore did not tell him to sit. Eleanor looked at him. "Mr. Reed, are you all right?" Marcus gave a bitter half-smile. "Depends which record you read." Maya turned toward him, and her face softened just slightly. "Today we read the real one." Clara Jenkins made a sound from the clerk's station. It was small, almost a swallowed sob. Judge Whitmore saw her. "Clara." Not another word. Eleanor's eyes moved to the clerk. "Miss Jenkins, has anyone instructed you to alter the official account of today's hearing?" Clara looked at the judge, then at Caleb, then at Maya. Her hands shook, but her answer came out. "Yes." Judge Whitmore slammed the gavel. "Clara Jenkins, you will stop speaking immediately." Eleanor turned slowly toward him. "Do not threaten a court employee in front of me. She is my clerk. She is a witness." The word landed like a door locking. Clara pressed one hand to her chest. "He told me to write that Miss Williams was disruptive. He told me not to include the file, or the boot, or the phone." Caleb muttered. "Clara, shut up." A federal marshal took one step toward him. Caleb stopped. Frank Bell lifted the USB in his hand. "Attorney General Grant." Eleanor looked at him. Frank said, "Clara gave me this before they brought Miss Williams back in. I haven't opened it." Clara closed her eyes. Judge Whitmore went pale. Eleanor motioned to an investigator. "Secure it." Maya watched Caleb's face change as he understood what that small black drive might contain. "What's on that?" he demanded. Clara's voice trembled, but she answered him. "The records you thought disappeared." No one spoke for 3 seconds. Then Marcus Reed whispered, "Lord have mercy." Eleanor gave instructions quickly now. "Seal the clerk's terminal. Preserve the court audio system. No one accesses chambers without state supervision. Federal marshals will secure the hallway and both exits. Miss Brooks, your original phone will be recovered and imaged. Mr. Bell, you will provide a statement. Mr. Reed, you and your wife will remain under state protection until we determine whether witness intimidation charges apply." Judge Whitmore rose from the bench. "You are overstepping." Eleanor looked up at him. "Judge Whitmore, your son placed the state's prosecutor in handcuffs during a civil rights hearing about his own alleged misconduct, after you ordered him to remove her. If anything, I arrived late." Maya bent and picked up one more page from the floor. This one showed the exact timestamp where Caleb's body cam went dark. She held it up. 6 minutes and 4 seconds, she said. "That was all you had to explain." Caleb's breathing quickened. Maya continued. "Instead, you stepped on evidence, threatened a reporter, intimidated a witness, and handcuffed the attorney assigned to the case." Caleb pointed at her. "You set me up." "No," Maya said. "I gave you room." Eleanor looked at Caleb. "Deputy Whitmore, surrender your badge and service weapon." His eyes widened. "What?" A federal marshal stepped beside him. Judge Whitmore shouted. "You will not disarm my son in my courtroom." Eleanor did not raise her voice. "Watch me." Caleb hesitated, then slowly removed his badge. The sound of it touching the table was small, but everybody heard it. Then he unholstered his weapon and handed it over grip first. Maya watched without satisfaction. This was not victory yet. It was only the first honest minute after years of darkness. Eleanor turned to the judge. "And now," she said, "we will talk about your courtroom." Eleanor's words held the room in place. Judge Whitmore stood behind the bench, one hand still near the gavel, but no one looked at the gavel anymore. Caleb's badge lay on the table. His service weapon was already in the hands of a federal marshal. The boot-marked evidence had been sleeved. Naomi's phone was recording. Frank Bell held his breath like an old reporter who knew history when it walked into a room. Clara Jenkins sat at her station with tears in her eyes and her hands away from the keyboard. Eleanor looked up at the judge. "Step down from the bench." Whitmore's face hardened. "Absolutely not. This is no longer your hearing to control. I am the presiding judge of Ashford County Court. You are a material subject in an active civil rights investigation." A murmur moved through the gallery. Judge Whitmore pointed toward the crowd. "I will clear this courtroom." "No," Eleanor said. "You will not." His mouth opened, but the words seemed to strike something solid before they came out. Maya stood beside the state's table, rubbing one wrist where the cuff had left its mark. Caleb watched her, anger and disbelief fighting across his face. "This is political," Caleb said. "That's all this is. Atlanta people come down here, stir up race, ruin local officers, and call it justice." Maya looked at him. "You ruined yourself before Atlanta arrived." He turned on her. "You hid who you were. You showed who you were." Eleanor raised a hand, not to silence Maya, but to move the room forward. "Investigator Lane, read the authorization." A woman in a dark suit stepped forward, opened a folder, and began. "Pursuant to authorization from the Office of the Georgia Attorney General, with federal coordination regarding potential violations of civil rights under color of law, this team is empowered to preserve, secure, and examine records, devices, internal communications, bodycam logs, court audio, docket alterations, and associated files relating to the Marcus Reed matter and related complaints involving Deputy Caleb Whitmore." Judge Whitmore's voice cut in. "You will not touch Chambers." Investigator Lane did not look up. "Chambers is included. You need a warrant." A federal marshal lifted a document. "We have one." For the first time, Judge Whitmore took a step back. Caleb looked at the paper. "That's not real." Maya's eyes stayed on him. "You said the same thing about the bodycam log." Eleanor nodded to the marshals. "Secure Chambers." Two federal marshals moved toward the side door. Judge Whitmore shouted, "Stop." They did not. The sound of that door opening did something to the room. For years, people had seen men enter those chambers and come out changed. Charges reduced for some, bonds raised for others, plea deals whispered, complaints buried, parents told to be grateful their sons were not getting worse. Now the door opened without Whitmore's permission. Clara covered her mouth. Eleanor turned to her. "Miss Jenkins, I need you to answer carefully. Have court records in this courthouse been altered after hearings?" Clara's voice shook. "Yes." "How often?" She closed her eyes. "Often enough that I stopped pretending they were mistakes." Judge Whitmore slammed his palm on the bench. "Clara, you are confused." "No, Judge," Clara said, her voice breaking but still clear. "I was afraid. That's different." The gallery went silent. Eleanor stepped closer to the clerk's station. "Did Judge Whitmore instruct you to omit Deputy Whitmore's conduct from today's record?" "Yes." "Did he instruct you to label Miss Williams as disruptive?" "Yes." "Did he instruct you to leave out the seizure of Miss Brooks's phone?" Clara looked at Naomi. "Yes." Naomi's jaw tightened. Caleb barked. "She's lying." Clara looked at him then. Something changed in her face. Fear was still there, but it no longer owned the whole room. "I typed lies for your father for years," Clara said. "Don't ask me to lie for you again." Caleb lunged half a step toward her. A federal marshal blocked him immediately. Eleanor's voice sharpened. Deputy Whitmore, one more movement toward a witness and you will be restrained. Caleb stared at her. You can't treat me like a criminal. Marcus Reed spoke from the defense table. You treated me like one before you had a reason. No one told Marcus to sit down this time. Maya looked at Marcus, then at Eleanor. The Reed file should be pulled first. The arrest report, booking notes, bodycam metadata, pharmacy video request, and any communication between the sheriff's office and Chambers. Eleanor nodded. Already in the preservation order, Judge Whitmore said, You are letting her run this. Eleanor turned slowly. Yes. The single word silenced him. Caleb stared at Maya. Boss, he muttered, bitterly now. Maya answered. You heard correctly. An investigator entered from the side with Naomi's first phone sealed in a plastic evidence bag, recovered from the deputy station. Video file appears deleted from device storage. Cloud sync status. Pending. Naomi lifted her backup phone. It's not pending on mine, Frank Bell said. Or mine. She sent it to me before they grabbed her. Caleb's face sank a little more. Eleanor looked toward Naomi. Miss Brooks, are you willing to provide the original recording and a statement? Yes. Were you threatened with arrest for recording? Yes. By whom? Naomi looked straight at Caleb. Deputy Caleb Whitmore. After Judge Whitmore ordered my phone seized, Caleb said. She was interfering. Naomi replied. I was sitting still, Maya said. The video will show that. Judge Whitmore looked from Naomi to Frank, from Clara to the marshals, from Maya to the sleeved evidence on the table. Every road he had used to control the morning was closing. He tried one more door. Madam Attorney General, he said, forcing dignity into his voice. Even if you object to how this morning has unfolded, you cannot ignore the defendant's conduct. Marcus Reed resisted arrest. Maya picked up a clean copy from her backup folder. No, he didn't, Caleb snapped. You got another folder? Maya looked at him. Of course. She placed the copy on the table. The pharmacy video shows Mr. Reed with both hands raised. The audio from a nearby porch camera captures him, saying, I'm not resisting. The body cam stops 12 seconds later. When it resumes, he is already handcuffed. Eleanor turned to Caleb. Why did the camera stop? Caleb said nothing. She waited. The silence grew. Maya stepped in softly. You have answered everything else today. You called evidence trash. You called witnesses trouble. You called people like Marcus dangerous before they moved. But now, when the question is only 6 minutes long, you suddenly have nothing to say. Caleb's face worked, but no answer came. Eleanor looked to the federal marshal beside him. Deputy Caleb Whitmore is to remain in this courtroom under supervision, pending further determination of charges. What charges? Caleb demanded. Eleanor looked at the cuff marks on Maya's wrists, then at the boot print, sealed in evidence, then at Marcus Reed. Let's begin with unlawful detention, obstruction of justice, intimidation of a witness, unlawful seizure of press material, destruction of evidence, and potential civil rights violations under color of law. Caleb turned to his father. Dad? Judge Whitmore said nothing. That silence did what Maya's words had done earlier. It made everyone look. For the first time all morning, Caleb Whitmore stood in his father's courtroom and discovered his father's robe could not cover him anymore. Caleb looked at his father the way a child looks at a locked door during a storm. Dad? He said again. Judge Whitmore did not answer. That silence was worse than any confession. For the first time in that courtroom, Caleb stood alone, stripped of the one thing he had always carried like a second badge, his father's protection. Eleanor Grant turned to the federal marshal beside Caleb. Keep him where he is. Caleb stiffened. You can't hold me here, the marshal said. Actually, deputy, we can. I'm still law enforcement. Maya looked at the badge lying on the table. Not at this moment. Caleb's eyes flashed toward her. You think this is over? No, Maya said. I think it finally started. One of the investigators returned from Chambers carrying a sealed evidence box. Behind him, another came out with a laptop bag, 2 file stacks, and a label sheet already marked with timestamps. Judge Whitmore finally found his voice. Those are privileged judicial materials. Eleanor faced him. not when they contain communications relevant to obstruction, record tampering, or civil rights violations. You have no proof of that. Clara Jenkins spoke from the clerk's station, still trembling but no longer shrinking. The January Reed continuance emails are in the chamber's archive. Whitmore turned on her. Clara. She flinched, but kept going. So are the complaint transfers, the ones that never reached the State Review Board. Caleb said, "Shut up, Clara." The marshal took one step closer to him. Maya's eyes stayed on Clara. Which complaints? Clara swallowed. The gas station case, the schoolteacher case, the college student, and others. Marcus Reed's wife whispered, "Oh my God." Eleanor nodded to Investigator Lane. "Pull every file Clara identifies. Prioritize complaints involving Deputy Whitmore, missing footage, altered dockets, and coerced pleas." Judge Whitmore slammed his hand down. "This is a fishing expedition." Maya turned toward him. "No, Arthur. Fishing is when you hope to find something. Clara just gave us the map." Naomi's phone remained lifted. Frank Bell stood beside her, recording from another angle. The gallery had grown braver by inches. Nobody shouted. Nobody cheered. But people were no longer looking at the floor. Eleanor stepped toward Marcus Reed. "Mr. Reed, I need to ask you this in front of witnesses. Did anyone from the sheriff's office or this court pressure you to accept a plea?" Marcus stared at Caleb first. Then he looked at the judge. "Yes." "Who?" "Deputy Whitmore told me nobody would believe me over his report. Then someone from the county attorney's office said if I took the plea, I could avoid jail time. If I fought, the judge might make an example out of me." Judge Whitmore said, "Hearsay." Maya answered immediately. "Pattern." Eleanor looked at Marcus. "Did anyone mention the bodycam footage?" Marcus nodded. "They said there wasn't anything useful." Maya picked up the clean copy of the bodycam log. "Because the useful part was missing," Caleb muttered. "You don't know what happened in those 6 minutes." Maya turned to him. "Then tell us." He said nothing. Eleanor stepped closer. "Deputy Whitmore, this is your chance to explain why your body camera manually shut down 12 seconds after Mr. Reed said he was not resisting." Caleb's mouth tightened. "Why did it stop?" Eleanor asked. Caleb looked toward the gallery, then at his father, then at the marshal beside him. Judge Whitmore finally spoke, low and controlled. "Caleb, do not answer without counsel." Maya looked at Eleanor. "That may be the most legally sound thing he has said all morning." Eleanor nodded once. "Deputy Whitmore has the right to counsel. He also no longer controls the evidence." Investigator Lane approached Eleanor with a tablet. "Madam Attorney General, we have a preliminary read from Miss Jenkins's USB. It includes docket notes, complaint summaries, and a spreadsheet labeled informal resolutions." Clara closed her eyes. Maya repeated the phrase. "Informal resolutions." Clara nodded faintly. "That's what he called them." Eleanor asked, "What were they?" Clara's voice cracked. "Complaints that disappeared." The words moved through the room like a cold wind. Frank Bell lowered his phone for half a second. "How many?" Clara looked at Judge Whitmore, then at Caleb, then at Marcus Reed. "More than 50. Marcus's wife began to cry quietly. Caleb scoffed, but the sound lacked force. "She's making that up," Investigator Lane said. "The spreadsheet appears to list names, dates, officers involved, and final docket status. Multiple entries reference Deputy Whitmore." Caleb lunged one step forward. "Let me see that." The marshal blocked him. "Back up." Caleb stopped, breathing hard. Maya's voice was quiet. "You wanted the record to disappear." Clara kept it. Judge Whitmore sat slowly, as if his knees had finally remembered his age. Eleanor turned toward the gallery. "Anyone here whose name may be connected to one of those complaints will be contacted by state investigators. No one is required to speak today. No one will be pressured inside this room." An older woman in the second row stood with her purse clutched to her chest. "My son filed one." Everyone looked at her. She swallowed. 3 years ago. Caleb stopped him outside the grocery store. Said he matched a description. He was wearing his work shirt from the tire shop. They held him on the curb for 40 minutes. He filed a complaint. "We never heard back." Caleb said, "Ma'am, I don't even know who your son is." She looked at him with tired eyes. "That's because to you, He was just another black boy on a curb. No one spoke. Then, a man near the aisle stood. My brother filed too. Judge Whitmore snapped. This is not public comment. Eleanor looked at him. It is witness identification. The man continued. Traffic stop. Camera missing. Same story. Another voice from the back said, my nephew. Then another. My husband. Maya did not interrupt them. She watched the room become something Judge Whitmore could not gavel back into silence. Caleb shook his head. This is a setup. Marcus Reed stood again, slower this time. No. This is what happens when people finally stop being afraid of you. Caleb turned on him. You think this saves you? Maya stepped beside Marcus. It saves the truth from being alone. Eleanor gave a signal. 2 federal marshals moved toward Caleb. His face changed. What are you doing? Eleanor said. Deputy Caleb Whitmore. You are being detained pending formal charges. Judge Whitmore rose. You cannot arrest my son in my courtroom. Eleanor looked at him. You keep saying my courtroom. That may be the heart of the problem. The marshal took Caleb's arm. Caleb yerked back. Dad. Judge Whitmore gripped the bench, but no order came. The cuffs went on. This time, Caleb felt the metal close around his wrists. Naomi's camera captured everything. Maya looked at the boot-marked evidence, at Marcus Reed, at Clara Jenkins, at the people standing one by one with years of swallowed pain in their faces. Then she looked at Caleb. He had dragged her out of that courtroom believing power was a family name. Now he was being led through the same aisle, learning that a badge could open doors, but evidence could close them forever. Caleb Whitmore was led past the same table where, less than an hour earlier, he had laughed at Maya Williams like she was a child who had wandered into the wrong room. Now his wrists were cuffed in front of him. The courtroom watched him go. No one cheered. That would have been too easy, too small for what had just broken open. People simply watched with the heavy silence of those who had spent years waiting to see one powerful man treated like everybody else. Caleb twisted toward his father as the federal marshals guided him down the aisle. Dad, say something. Judge Arthur Whitmore stood behind the bench, both hands gripping the edge. The robe still hung on him, but it no longer gave him shape. He looked smaller now, not because his body had changed, but because the room had finally stopped lending him fear. Dad! Caleb shouted. Judge Whitmore's mouth opened. Eleanor Grant turned toward him. Judge, before you speak, I advise you to remember you are now a subject of an active investigation. That closed his mouth. Caleb stared at him, stunned. You're letting them do this? Maya stood near Marcus Reed's table, one wrist still faintly marked by the cuffs Caleb had put on her. He has been letting things happen for years, she said. This is just the first time it happened to you. Caleb lunged half a step in her direction. The marshal tightened his hold. Keep walking, the marshal said. Caleb looked back at Maya, eyes burning. You think this makes you somebody? Maya did not raise her voice. No. I think it makes the record complete. The marshals took him out through the main doors. When the doors closed, the room did not relax. It inhaled. Attorney General Eleanor Grant turned to the gallery. Everyone who believes they may have information connected to complaints against Deputy Caleb Whitmore, altered court records, missing body cam footage, or coerced plea agreements will have the opportunity to speak with investigators today. No one will be forced. No one will be threatened. And no one in this courthouse will decide whether your story matters, except the law. An older man stood slowly in the third row. He held a worn baseball cap in both hands. Ma'am? Eleanor faced him. Yes, sir. My grandson filed one of them complaints. 2 years ago. Deputy Whitmore stopped him outside a gas station. Said he fit a description. Boy was 17. Coming home with milk and a pack of batteries for his mama. Judge Whitmore said, This is not the proper forum. Maya looked at him. It became the proper forum when the proper channels were buried. The old man continued, voice rough. They made him sit on the curb while folks drove by. He never wanted to go back to school after that. Said everybody looked at him like he had done something. We filed papers. Never heard nothing. Clara Jenkins covered her mouth. Eleanor nodded to Investigator Lane. Take his name. Give him a private interview room. A woman near the aisle stood next. My husband took a plea because they told him Judge Whitmore would give him the maximum if he fought it. Another voice followed. My daughter lost her nursing job over a charge that got dropped 6 months later. Then another. My brother's body cam went missing too. The stories did not come out like speeches. They came out like people pulling splinters from old wounds, one sharp piece at a time. Marcus Reed sat down hard, as if the weight of all those voices had finally reached him. His wife touched his shoulder. Maya stepped beside him. Marcus. He looked up. His eyes were wet, but his voice held. I thought it was just me. It never was, Maya said. He shook his head. That almost makes it worse. I know. Eleanor turned toward the bench. Judge Whitmore, you are temporarily relieved of control over this proceeding pending review. You will not access chambers, court systems, clerk records, or any communications devices without authorization. Whitmore's face darkened. You do not have the authority to remove a sitting judge. I have authority to preserve evidence in a civil rights investigation, and I have enough authority to stop you from touching anything that might prove what happened here. He looked toward the side door. I need to contact counsel. You may contact counsel, Eleanor said. You may not contact staff, deputies, witnesses, or anyone connected to the files now under preservation. His eyes moved to Clara. Clara looked down, but she did not shrink this time. Maya saw it. So did Whitmore. Eleanor followed his gaze. Miss Jenkins, you are under state protection as a cooperating witness. If anyone from this courthouse contacts you about your testimony, you will report it directly to my office. Clara nodded. Yes, ma'am. Whitmore gave a bitter laugh. So that is what this is. You turned my clerk against me. Clara looked up. For the first time all day, she spoke without trembling. No, Judge. You turned me against myself. She just reminded me I could still stop. The words landed quietly, but they reached every corner of the room. Frank Bell lowered his phone just enough to look at her with something like pride. Naomi kept recording, tears bright in her eyes but her hands steady. Investigator Lane returned with a laptop. Madam Attorney General, preliminary scan of the Chamber's archive shows multiple communications between Judge Whitmore's account and Sheriff's Office personnel regarding complaint classifications. Several are marked informal handling. Maya looked at Eleanor. That phrase again. Eleanor nodded. Pull the sender, recipients, dates, attached files, and docket numbers. Judge Whitmore said, those communications may be privileged. Maya turned to him. Privilege does not cover burying civil rights complaints. His stare sharpened. You are enjoying this. No, Maya said. I am remembering every person who did not get a room full of cameras when this happened to them. That silenced him more effectively than any objection. A federal marshal stepped back into the courtroom. Deputy Whitmore has been secured in interview room 2. He is requesting to speak with his father. Eleanor answered immediately. Denied pending counsel. Judge Whitmore snapped. He is my son, and a detained subject in this investigation. He has rights. Maya looked at him. So did Marcus Reed. Whitmore turned away. Marcus slowly stood. Judge. Everyone looked at him. His wife whispered, Marcus, don't. But Marcus kept his eyes on the bench. I want you to hear me say this while you still sitting up there. I did not resist. I did not swing. I did not reach. I asked why I was being stopped. Your son slammed me into a car and wrote me into a lie. Judge Whitmore said nothing. Marcus continued. And when I came here for help, you looked at me like the lie was already enough. Maya did not interrupt. Eleanor did not interrupt. Nobody did. Marcus's voice grew quieter. I taught history for 18 years. I told students courts were where facts mattered. Then I came into yours and learned Fish got tired waiting outside. Clara began crying silently. Judge Whitmore looked away. Marcus nodded once, as if that was the answer he expected. That's all. Eleanor signaled to an investigator, who gently guided Marcus and his wife toward a side room for their statement. As Marcus passed Maya, he stopped. You knew they'd do this? Maya looked at the doors where Caleb had been taken. I knew they might. And you still walked in? She gave him a small, tired smile. Somebody had to make them show themselves. Marcus looked at her wrist. They put cuffs on you, Maya said, and cameras on them. For the first time that day, Marcus almost smiled. Behind them, Naomi received a message on her phone. Her eyes widened. Frank leaned over. What? She looked at Maya. The video is already out. Eleanor turned sharply. Who posted it? Naomi swallowed. My editor's desk. Full clip. No cuts. The file went live the moment they tried to seize the second phone. Frank lifted one hand. Scheduled upload. Old newspaper trick with new technology. Maya looked at him. You planned that? Frank shrugged. I've been threatened by better men than Caleb Whitmore. Naomi read the screen. 10,000 views already. Judge Whitmore's face went pale. Eleanor looked toward the sealed evidence, the trembling witnesses, the locked chamber's door, and the judge who had finally understood that silence had left the building. Then we work faster, she said. Maya picked up the clean copy of the bodycam log and placed it beside the sleeved, boot-marked one. One record showed what Caleb tried to hide. The other showed what his arrogance revealed. And somewhere outside that courthouse, the county was beginning to watch. Eleanor Grant looked at the view count on Naomi's phone and did not smile. Miss Brooks, she said, do not post anything else until we secure the remaining records. Naomi nodded. Understood. Frank Bell slid his reading glasses down his nose. Too late for quiet, Madam Attorney General. I am not asking for quiet, Eleanor said. I am asking for clean. Maya understood immediately. Public outrage could help, but sloppy evidence could poison a case. A viral video made people angry. Chain of custody made charges stick. Investigator Lane stepped close to Eleanor. We have chambers sealed. Clerk terminal is imaged. Sheriff's office dispatch logs are being preserved. State techs are requesting access to county body cam storage. Requesting? Maya asked. Lane glanced at her. The county administrator says he needs Judge Whitmore's approval. Eleanor turned toward the bench. Judge Whitmore sat stiffly, hands folded, trying to look less cornered than he was. County digital storage is not under my personal control, Maya said. But the deleted complaints were? His eyes cut toward her. You should be careful, Miss Williams. Eleanor stepped in. No, you should. From this point forward, any attempt to delay preservation of electronic records will be treated as possible obstruction. Whitmore's lips thinned. You have made your threat. I have made the law plain. A deputy from the hallway entered, visibly nervous. Madam Attorney General, Sheriff Dalton is outside. He says this is his courthouse security operation, and he wants to speak with Judge Whitmore. Maya looked at Eleanor. Sheriff Dalton supervised Caleb's unit. Judge Whitmore spoke quickly. The sheriff has a right to be informed when state officers invade his courthouse. Eleanor nodded to the marshal by the door. Sheriff Dalton may enter. He does not speak privately with Judge Whitmore. He does not access evidence. He does not remove personnel. If he objects, he can do so on camera. Frank lifted his phone again. Happy to help. A minute later, Sheriff Roy Dalton walked in with the stiff posture of a man used to being obeyed before he finished a sentence. He was broad, silver-haired, and angry enough not to hide it. What in God's name is going on here? He demanded. Maya answered before Eleanor did. Your deputy was detained after evidence tampering, unlawful removal of counsel, witness intimidation, and the disappearance of body cam footage central to a civil rights hearing. Dalton looked at Maya as if she were an interruption. And who are you supposed to be? Eleanor's voice cut cleanly. The lawyer leading the inquiry you are about to cooperate with. Dalton blinked, then looked at Judge Whitmore. Arthur, Eleanor said, do not look at him. Look at me. The sheriff's jaw worked. Madam Attorney General, my office has procedures. Maya said. Do those procedures include body cams going dark? Dalton pointed a finger at her. Young lady, you don't know the first thing about what my deputies face. Maya stepped closer. I know what Marcus Reed faced. I know Caleb's report says one thing, a pharmacy camera shows another, and 6 minutes disappeared between the two. That is under internal review. Eleanor asked. When did internal review begin? Dalton hesitated. Maya answered for him. After my motion to compel. Dalton turned to her. You got a mouth on you. Maya held his stare. And you have a storage server we need access to. Naomi's phone caught the sheriff looking away. Eleanor gave the order. Sheriff Dalton, you will provide immediate access to bodycam archives, complaint files, dispatch logs, use of force reports, and internal affairs communications involving Deputy Caleb Whitmore. Dalton shook his head. I need to consult county counsel. You may call counsel, Eleanor said. You may not delay preservation. Judge Whitmore stood. This is harassment of local law enforcement. Marcus Reed, returning from the side room with his wife, stopped at the doorway and said, No, Judge. Harassment is getting stopped for nothing until the camera broke. Dalton looked at Marcus. You need to sit down. Maya turned sharply. Sheriff, do not threaten my client. I didn't threaten him. You gave an order like he belongs to you. Dalton's face flushed. People around here still respect the badge. Maya replied. People around here are learning. The badge is not a blindfold. Eleanor looked to Investigator Lane. Get the preservation team to the sheriff's office now. Lane nodded and stepped away. Already on the phone, Judge Whitmore said, You are escalating this beyond all proportion. No, Eleanor answered. Your son did that when he put cuffs on my prosecutor. Dalton's eyes moved to Maya's wrists. He finally saw the marks. Something in his face flickered. Not regret. Calculation. Maya noticed. You didn't know. The sheriff said nothing. You didn't know Caleb cuffed me. Maya continued. You thought this was still just missing footage and a noisy lawyer. Dalton looked at Judge Whitmore. Arthur, what exactly happened before I got here? Judge Whitmore said, Do not answer questions in this circus. Eleanor stepped between them. Sheriff Dalton, if you and Judge Whitmore coordinate statements in this room, you will regret it. Frank murmured. That one's going in the story. Dalton lowered his voice. I want to see Caleb. Denied, Eleanor said. He is my deputy. He is detained. He has rights. Maya said. So did Marcus. So did Naomi. So did I. The sheriff turned away, angry but trapped. Then Naomi's phone buzzed again. She looked down, and her face changed. What now? Frank asked. Naomi looked at Maya. The county is sharing the video. Veterans groups, church pages, teachers from Marcus's old school. It's everywhere. Marcus's wife covered her mouth. Marcus whispered, My students saw it? Naomi nodded gently. Some of them are commenting. They're saying they believe you. For the first time, Marcus Reed looked like the floor under him had steadied. Judge Whitmore heard it too, and his face tightened. His power had always depended on stories staying local, slow, and buried. Now the story had left the courthouse before lunch. Investigator Lane returned. Madam Attorney General, state techs report resistance at the sheriff's office. County IT says they were instructed to lock external access. Eleanor turned to Dalton. By whom? Dalton said. I don't know. Maya said. Find out fast. Eleanor's expression hardened. Sheriff Dalton, you will call your office now, on speaker, and instruct them to preserve all records and grant access to the state team. Dalton stared at her. Now, Eleanor said. The sheriff pulled out his phone. His fingers moved slowly, but everyone watched. He put the call on speaker. A voice answered. Sheriff? Dalton swallowed. Give the state team access to the bodycam archive and complaint storage. A pause, but Judge Whitmore said. The courtroom went silent. Dalton's eyes closed briefly. Eleanor leaned toward the phone. Who is this? The voice hesitated. County IT, ma'am. This is Attorney General Eleanor Grant. Repeat exactly what Judge Whitmore said. Judge Whitmore shouted, End that call. No one moved. The voice on the phone shook. He said, Lock external access until he could review what they were asking for. Maya looked at the judge. There it is. Eleanor's tone was ice. Unlock it. Preserve everything. If one file disappears after this call, every person involved will answer for it. Yes, ma'am, the voice said. Dalton ended the call with a hand that no longer looked steady. Judge Whitmore sat back down. For the first time, he looked old. Maya picked up the clean bodycam log and laid it beside the boot-marked copy again. 6 minutes and 4 seconds, she said softly. That was the crack. Eleanor looked at the judge, then the sheriff, then the gallery full of people who had stopped looking afraid. "And now," she said, "we follow it all the way through the wall." Sheriff Dalton's phone call changed the air in the courtroom more than any speech could have. For a moment, nobody moved. The county IT worker's words still seemed to hang over the benches. Judge Whitmore said, "Lock. External access." Eleanor Grant did not repeat them. She did not need to. Everyone had heard. Maya looked at Judge Whitmore. "You tried to block the bodycam archive while standing in a courtroom full of witnesses." Judge Whitmore's mouth tightened. "I requested judicial review of sensitive law enforcement material. You told IT to lock out the state preservation team to prevent unauthorized access." Eleanor stepped forward. "Authorized by warrant. Authorized by my office. Authorized by the facts your son created in front of this room." Sheriff Dalton took a step away from the bench, as if distance could separate him from what had just been said on speakerphone. Maya noticed. "Sheriff, this is the part where men usually start deciding which loyalty can still save them." Dalton looked at her. "I don't need advice from you." "No," she said. "You need a lawyer. But before that, you need to decide whether Caleb Whitmore is worth your whole department." Judge Whitmore snapped. "Do not answer her." Dalton turned on him. "You told my IT staff to lock the archive?" Whitmore's eyes hardened. "I told them to preserve order." "You told them without informing me?" "You were unavailable. I was 10 minutes away. You would have mishandled it." Dalton's face flushed. "My department, Arthur." Maya's voice cut between them. "Marcus Reed was arrested by your department. The complaint disappeared in this courthouse. The camera footage sat on your server. Both of you had a piece." Eleanor looked at Dalton. "Sheriff, if you want any chance to cooperate, it begins now. Full access, full preservation, full names of everyone who handled Marcus Reed's file." Dalton rubbed a hand over his jaw. He looked older than when he had walked in. "Lane," Eleanor said. Investigator Lane stepped forward. "Yes, ma'am. Put Sheriff Dalton's cooperation status on the record as pending. If his office complies fully within the next 10 minutes, note it. If not, escalate." Dalton gave a bitter laugh. 10 minutes? Maya said. Caleb's camera went dark for 6. Consider 10 generous. Naomi Brooks's phone stayed up. Frank Bell stood beside her, recording but silent. The gallery had grown perfectly still, not because they were afraid now, but because every sentence seemed to open another locked drawer. The courtroom doors opened again. A state technician entered, holding a tablet. "Madam Attorney General, we have access to the bodycam server." Eleanor turned. "Status? Initial scan shows the Reed file has 2 entries, 1 produced copy and 1 restricted original." Maya's eyes sharpened. "Restricted by whom?" The technician glanced at the tablet. "User tag appears to be Judicial Admin Override." Every head turned toward Judge Whitmore. He lifted his chin. "I have administrative review authority in certain matters," Maya said. "Over bodycam footage from your son's arrest?" No answer. The technician continued. "The restricted original is larger than the produced file." Marcus Reed stood slowly. "Larger?" Maya looked at him. "It may contain the missing segment." His wife whispered, "Can they play it?" Eleanor shook her head once. "Not yet. First we preserve it, copy it, hash it, and verify it." Frank Bell murmured, "That's the clean part." Maya nodded. "That's the part that survives court." Caleb was not in the room, but his absence felt like pressure against the doors. Judge Whitmore stared at the tablet, as if he could still will the file to vanish. Eleanor looked to the technician. "Secure the restricted original. No playback until forensic duplication is complete." "Yes, ma'am." Maya turned to Marcus. "We are closer." Marcus swallowed. "Closer to what?" "To the 6 minutes they thought nobody would ever see." A sound came from the gallery. An older woman had started crying quietly. Another woman reached over and took her hand. Nobody asked them to be quiet. Judge Whitmore tried to regain the room. "This has become a spectacle." Maya faced him. "No. This is what accountability looks like when it arrives late." Dalton's phone buzzed in his hand. He looked down, then up at Eleanor. "My captain says state techs are in the archive." "Good. He also says reporters are outside. Naomi lowered her phone slightly. They saw the video, Frank added. And the courthouse address isn't exactly a secret. Eleanor's face remained controlled. No one speaks to the press until evidence is secured. Maya looked at Naomi. You understand? Naomi nodded. I understand. The story can wait 5 minutes. The files can't. Judge Whitmore laughed softly. Suddenly the press has discipline. Naomi looked at him. No, Judge. Suddenly the truth has backup. Clara Jenkins rose from her chair. Madam Attorney General? Eleanor turned. Yes, Miss Jenkins. There are paper copies. Judge Whitmore's expression changed so quickly even Dalton saw it. Maya asked. Paper copies of what? Clara clasped her hands together. Complaints. Not all of them. Some. When files were marked informal handling, I sometimes printed the intake sheet before the docket changed. Whitmore said, Clara, I strongly advise you to stop. She looked at him, and her voice steadied. You advised me for 30 years. That is how I got here. The gallery was silent. Eleanor spoke gently. Where are the copies? Clara looked toward the clerk's station. Not here. Judge Whitmore shouted. She is admitting theft of court documents, Maya said. She is admitting preservation of evidence you buried. Clara nodded once, as if Maya had given her permission to breathe. My church has a basement archive. We use it for old choir music, food drive forms, Christmas pageant costumes. There's a file box behind the Thanksgiving decorations. Frank Bell blinked. Clara Jenkins. You hid court complaints in a church basement? Clara gave a broken little laugh. I didn't know where else God might still be watching. For the first time all day, a few people in the gallery let themselves breathe something close to relief. Eleanor turned to Investigator Lane. Send a team with Miss Jenkins. Federal Marshal escort. Evidence bags. Chain of custody from the moment the box is touched. Clara nodded. I'll take them. Judge Whitmore said. She leaves this room and she contaminates everything. Maya looked at him. You contaminated it. When you changed the records. Dalton stared at Clara. How many complaints? She shook her head. I don't know. Maybe 20 in the box. Maybe more. They were the ones I couldn't make myself shred. Marcus Reed's wife whispered. Thank you. Clara looked at her and almost broke. Don't thank me yet. Maya stepped closer. Clara, the clerk looked up. Today is yet. Clara closed her eyes, then nodded. Eleanor gave the order, and 2 marshals moved to escort Clara. As she passed Judge Whitmore, he said her name one last time, low and full of warning. Clara. She stopped, but did not turn around. He said, You will regret this. Clara looked back then, her face pale but firm. No, Judge. I already regret the other part. Then she walked out with the marshals. The courtroom doors closed behind her. Eleanor turned back to the technician. Status on the restricted body cam original? The technician looked down. Forensic copy complete in 90 seconds. Marcus gripped the edge of the table. Maya stood beside him. Whatever is on it, we follow the evidence. He nodded. I know, but his voice barely came out. 90 seconds in a courtroom can feel longer than 3 months in the dark. Judge Whitmore sat without moving. Sheriff Dalton stared at the floor. Naomi recorded the silence. Frank watched the progress bar on the technician's tablet, like it was the final inning of a game no one was allowed to lose. Then the technician looked up. Copy. Complete. Hash verified. Original. Preserved. Eleanor looked at Maya. Maya looked at Marcus. Marcus whispered, Play it. Eleanor nodded once. Play the missing 6 minutes. The technician connected the verified copy to the courtroom monitor. Nobody spoke while the screen went black, then flickered into the shaky view from Deputy Caleb Whitmore's body cam. The timestamp appeared in the corner. 8.42 MPP. Marcus Reed stood beside the patrol car with both hands raised. Caleb's voice came through the speaker, sharp and impatient. Turn around. Marcus's voice followed, strained but controlled. Deputy, I'm asking why I was stopped. Turn around. My hands are up. Don't make this harder. Maya stood beside Marcus in the courtroom, close enough to hear his breathing change. His wife reached for his hand. He took it without looking away from the screen. The video continued. Marcus said, I'm not resisting. Then Caleb's hand moved across the lens. The screen tilted. For a second, the image caught the dashboard, the pavement, the reflection of flashing lights. Then Caleb's thumb appeared near the camera housing. The audio caught one low click. The screen went dark. For the first time, the missing 6 minutes were no longer missing. The darkness remained, but the audio continued. Marcus's voice came first. "Why are you turning that off?" Caleb answered. "Because I'm tired of your mouth." Marcus said, "I'm not doing anything." Caleb's voice dropped. "Men like you always say that." A sound came from the gallery, a quiet intake of breath. Judge Whitmore stared at the monitor without blinking. On the audio, Marcus said, "Please, man, I got a wife. I got grandkids. I'm not fighting you." Caleb said, "You should have thought about that before acting like you own the road. I was driving home. You were driving through the wrong part of town with the wrong attitude." Marcus's wife covered her mouth. Maya's face did not change, but her hands curled once at her sides, then relaxed. The audio captured movement, shoes on pavement. Marcus repeating, "My hands are up. My hands are up." Then Caleb's voice again, louder now, performing for no camera because he believed there was none. "Stop resisting." Marcus sounded confused. "I'm not. Stop resisting. I'm not." Then another voice came through, farther away. A woman, probably from the pharmacy lot. "He's not resisting," Caleb snapped. "Go inside, ma'am." The woman said, "I'm watching you." Caleb muttered something under his breath. The words were low, but clear enough. "That's all you people do," Naomi whispered. "God." Frank Bell kept his phone steady. The audio played on. Caleb radioed in, but his tone changed. "Suspect is non-compliant. Possible resisting. Need unit to stand by." Marcus said. "Suspect? I told you my name," Caleb replied. "Your name is whatever I put in the report." That sentence did more to the room than any shouted insult could have. Marcus lowered his head. Maya looked at Eleanor. Eleanor's jaw had tightened. The audio continued until the camera clicked back on. The image returned with Marcus already handcuffed beside the patrol car, breathing hard, shirt pulled crooked. Caleb stepping back into frame. On the original produced footage, this was where the story had started again. Caleb, calm. Marcus restrained. The report neat. The lie clean. The technician paused the video. No one moved. Eleanor turned from the monitor to Judge Whitmore. "You had access to the restricted original." Whitmore did not answer. Maya stepped forward. "Your Honor, did you review this full file before denying the motion to admit video evidence?" Judge Whitmore swallowed. "I do not answer questions from counsel," Eleanor said. "You will answer mine." His eyes moved to her. She asked, "Did you know?" The audio continued after the screen went dark. He looked toward Sheriff Dalton. Dalton looked away. Eleanor repeated, "Did you know?" Whitmore's voice came out flat. "I was aware there may have been additional material." Marcus Reed stood up slowly. "Additional material?" His wife tried to hold him, but he gently took her hand off his sleeve. Marcus looked at Judge Whitmore. "That was my life. You called it additional material?" Judge Whitmore said nothing. Marcus's voice shook, but he did not raise it. "I sat at my kitchen table and told my wife I didn't resist. I told my church. I told my old students. I told anybody who would listen. And you had it. You had him saying my name was whatever he put in the report." Maya stepped beside him, but she did not interrupt. This was his truth. It deserved its own air. Marcus looked at Sheriff Dalton next. "And your department let me walk around with that lie on my back." Dalton's face was pale now. "Mr. Reed, I did not personally review." Marcus cut him off. "That's the problem with men in charge. You always personally don't know." Eleanor nodded to Investigator Lane. "Add the restricted original to the primary evidence set. Flag the statement, 'Your name is whatever I put in the report for transcript certification.'" Lane wrote quickly. "Yes, ma'am." Naomi kept recording, tears slipping down her face now. Frank glanced at her but did not tell her to stop. Some stories had to be witnessed, even when they hurt the hand holding the camera. Maya turned to the technician. "Can we confirm the manual shutdown command came from the device controls?" "Yes," he said. The log shows officer side button activation. Caleb's voice came from the doorway before anyone saw him. That doesn't prove intent. Everyone turned. A federal marshal stood beside Caleb, keeping one hand on his arm. Caleb had been brought back to the doorway, apparently after hearing the audio from the interview room feed. His face had lost its arrogance, but not his anger. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Who authorized him to return? The marshal said. He requested to hear what was being played. I kept him restrained at the door. Caleb looked at Maya. A camera going off doesn't prove what you think it proves. Maya answered. No. Your words did that. Caleb's jaw worked. You don't understand what it's like out there. Marcus said. You didn't understand what it was like under your report. Caleb ignored him. People get mouthy. They test you. You hesitate, and you don't go home. Maya looked at him with a cold steadiness. Marcus Reed's hands were up. He was disrespectful. And there it is, Maya said. Caleb realized the mistake, but too late. Maya stepped closer. Not enough to threaten, just enough that he had to meet her eyes. Not dangerous, not armed, not attacking. Disrespectful. Caleb said nothing. Eleanor turned to the marshal. Remove him again. No further access without counsel. Caleb pulled back. Dad, are you hearing this? Judge Whitmore stared at the bench. Dad, the judge still said nothing. The marshal guided Caleb out. This time, Caleb did not shout at Maya. He looked at the floor. When the doors closed, Eleanor addressed the room. The original bodycam file confirms the produced evidence was incomplete and materially misleading. The court had access to restricted material that contradicted Deputy Whitmore's report. The state will expand preservation to every case involving manual camera interruptions, complaint reclassification, and plea pressure tied to this courthouse. Judge Whitmore said, You are destroying public trust. Maya turned to him. No. Public trust was destroyed when you made people prove the truth while you hid the proof. Clara was not there to hear it, but her USB was. The body cam was. Naomi's video was. Frank's backup was. The people in the gallery were. For once, truth had more than one witness. Marcus Reed sat down again. But this time, he did not look defeated. He looked exhausted, wounded, and believed. His wife leaned close and whispered, They heard you. Marcus looked at the frozen image on the monitor. Then, at Maya. No, he said quietly. They heard him. Maya nodded. That's why he turned it off. Eleanor faced Investigator Lane. Prepare formal notices. Deputy Whitmore remains detained. Judge Whitmore is to be separated from all court systems pending judicial conduct, review, and criminal evaluation. Sheriff Dalton is to provide sworn cooperation by end of day. Dalton nodded once, silent. Judge Whitmore gripped the bench again, but the gesture had lost its power. Maya gathered the clean body cam log and placed it beside the sealed, boot-marked copy. One showed the missing 6 minutes. The other showed what happened when powerful men thought paper could not fight back. Then Naomi's phone buzzed again. She looked down, went still, and read aloud softly. 500,000 views. Frank exhaled. By supper, the whole state will know. Maya looked at the judge, at the bench, at the monitor frozen on the lie that had finally been forced to speak. No, she said. By supper, they'll know where to look. The courtroom had stopped pretending this was only about Marcus Reed. That was the first thing Maya noticed after the body cam audio ended. Marcus was still at the center of it. Still the man whose name had been bent into a police report, but the room had widened around him. Every sealed file, every altered docket, every complaint Clara had hidden in that church basement now seemed to breathe inside the walls. Eleanor Grant turned to Investigator Lane. Status on the church records? Lane checked her phone. Federal marshals are en route with Miss Jenkins. Estimated arrival at the church in 7 minutes. Judge Whitmore let out a short, bitter laugh. So now a courthouse is being run from a church basement. Maya looked at him. No, Arthur. That is where your courthouse forced the truth to hide. He stared at her with a hatred too tired to dress itself as authority. Sheriff Dalton stood near the aisle, no longer arguing. His phone kept buzzing in his hand, but he did not answer it until Eleanor looked at him. Sheriff, she said. Put it on speaker. Dalton hesitated. It's my captain. Then put it on speaker, he answered. Captain Hayes. You're on speaker with the Attorney General. The voice on the line sounded strained. Sheriff, we've got state techs in the archive. They're pulling bodycam logs going back 5 years. News vans are outside. Officers are asking if they should speak to anyone. Eleanor stepped closer. They should speak to counsel if they need counsel. They should speak to investigators if they have evidence. They should not coordinate stories, delete files, alter logs, or contact witnesses. Say that back. A pause. Captain Hayes repeated. Slower. Do not coordinate stories, delete files, alter logs, or contact witnesses, Maya added, and preserve all manual shutdown events involving Deputy Caleb Whitmore. Another pause. All of them? Maya's eyes sharpened. How many are there? The line went quiet. Dalton closed his eyes. Eleanor said, Captain Hayes, I don't have the number in front of me. Maya stepped in. Then give us the number you remember. The captain exhaled. More than one. That was not the question, Maya said. A longer silence. 17 flagged incidents. Hayes said. A sound moved through the gallery, low and angry. Marcus Reed's wife whispered. 17? Frank Bell lowered his phone just enough to mutter. Lord, Judge Whitmore snapped. Flagged does not mean misconduct. Maya turned on him. Neither does a badge mean innocence. Eleanor spoke into the phone. Captain Hayes, isolate those files now. Do not wait for a formal request. The preservation order covers them. If one timestamp changes, we will know. Yes, ma'am. Dalton ended the call, his face hard with something that might have been fear. 17 doesn't mean 17 bad arrests, Marcus said from the table. It means 17 dark places. Nobody answered that. Investigator Lane's phone buzzed again. Madam Attorney General, Miss Jenkins and the marshals have reached the church. They found the basement archive. Eleanor nodded. Stay on the line. Lane listened, then looked up. They found the file box. Judge Whitmore's face lost color. Maya watched him carefully. You know what is in it. He did not answer. Lane continued. Initial visual confirmation. Paper complaint forms. Printed intake sheets, handwritten docket notes, several marked with names matching the USB spreadsheet. Naomi's hand trembled around her phone, but she kept recording. Eleanor asked, Any Reed file? Lane listened. Yes. Marcus Reed, intake copy. Dated 2 days after arrest. It has a handwritten note. Maya asked, What note? Lane's face changed. It says, Hold until A. W. Reviews. Son involved. The room went silent. Marcus looked at the judge. A. W. Maya said. Arthur Whitmore. Judge Whitmore gripped the bench. That proves nothing. Eleanor's voice was flat. It proves your name is in the chain before the complaint disappeared. Whitmore said. Anyone could have written that. Maya looked at Clara's empty chair. Then, you will have no objection when Clara identifies the handwriting. He shut his mouth. Lane spoke again. There are more notes, some initials, some case numbers. Miss Jenkins says she can identify most of them. Eleanor gave the order. Bag the entire box. Photograph contents in place. Transport under seal. Lane nodded and relayed it. Sheriff Dalton looked toward the doors, suddenly restless. If those complaints involve my office, I need to assign internal affairs. Maya looked at him. Your internal affairs missed them when they were alive. They don't get first rights over their bodies. Dalton's face tightened, but he said nothing. A federal marshal entered and leaned toward Eleanor. Deputy Whitmore has invoked counsel. Good, Eleanor said. No interview without his attorney. Maya glanced toward the door. Did he say anything else? The marshal hesitated. He asked if Judge Whitmore could call his mother. A strange quiet fell. For all Caleb's cruelty, the sentence exposed what he was underneath it. A man who had mistaken family protection for law until the law finally touched him. Maya did not soften. She simply said, He can call counsel first. Judge Whitmore looked at her. You enjoy humiliating him. Maya turned. Marcus Reed was called a suspect in his own life. Naomi was threatened for recording. Clara was threatened over her pension. I was dragged out and cuffed by your son while you watched. Do not ask me to confuse accountability with humiliation. Marcus nodded once. Eleanor looked toward the gallery. Anyone who has a complaint involving Deputy Whitmore or Ashford County officers will be given a number before leaving. You may speak today, tomorrow, or not at all. But your complaints will not go back through the same hands that buried them. An older woman stood. It was the same woman who had spoken about her son at the grocery store. Madam Attorney General? Yes, ma'am. If we talk, can they come after our families? Eleanor's answer came without hesitation. If they do, they will be adding retaliation to an already expanding investigation. The woman looked at Maya. And you'll really read them? Maya said. Every page. The woman nodded and sat. Naomi's phone buzzed again. This time she did not read the count aloud. Frank looked over her shoulder and whispered, 2 million. Judge Whitmore heard anyway. He sat down slowly, as if the number had weight. Maya did not look at the phone. Public outrage was not the same as justice. It could burn hot and vanish by morning. But records, once preserved, could keep speaking after the crowd went home. Eleanor turned to Judge Whitmore. Arthur Whitmore, pending immediate judicial conduct review. You are prohibited from accessing court records, contacting court staff regarding this matter, communicating with sheriff's office personnel about related cases, or entering chambers without authorization. Whitmore's voice came out low. You cannot order a judge around like a defendant. Maya looked at him. Today you made the difference. Hard to see. Eleanor nodded to the marshal. Escort Judge Whitmore to the consultation room. He may contact counsel from there. He is not under arrest at this moment. At this moment, Frank repeated under his breath. Whitmore heard him. His eyes flashed, but he did not speak. The marshal approached the bench. For one last second, Judge Whitmore looked at the gavel. Then he looked at Maya. You think you fixed something today? Maya answered, No. I think we stopped pretending it wasn't broken. The marshal led him down from the bench. No one stood for him. No one said, Your Honor. As he passed Marcus Reed, Marcus did not look away. That was all. No insult. No speech. Just the kind of dignity Judge Whitmore had tried to deny him with paperwork. When the door closed behind the judge, the courtroom remained silent. Then Eleanor turned to Maya. Boss, where do you want to start? Maya looked at the sealed bodycam file, the boot-marked evidence sleeve, Naomi's recording, Frank's backup, Marcus Reed, Sheriff Dalton, and the empty bench. With the names, she said. Every complaint, every missing minute, every person they taught to be quiet. Eleanor nodded. Then let's get to work. And for the first time that day, the courtroom was not being used to bury the truth. It was being used to count it. Eleanor Grant did not let the room celebrate. She looked at the empty bench, then at the people still standing in the gallery, and her voice carried the weight of someone who understood what came after outrage. Everyone who wants to speak will be heard, she said. But we are going to do this in a way that protects you and protects the evidence, one at a time. Names, dates, officers involved, case numbers, if you have them. No shouting, no guessing, no revenge, just the truth. Maya stood beside the state's table with the boot-marked evidence sealed near her hand. If you don't remember everything, say what you remember. If you are afraid, say that too. Fear is part of the record in this county. An older woman rose first. She kept her purse pressed against her stomach. My name is Darlene Price. My son filed a complaint in 2021. Caleb Whitmore stopped him outside Miller's grocery. Investigator Lane stepped forward with a recorder. What is your son's name, ma'am? Terrence Price. He was 22 then. Worked at the tire shop. He had grease on his shirt and a receipt in his pocket. Caleb said he matched a suspect description. Maya asked gently, Was there a suspect description? Darlene shook her head. We asked for it. They never gave us one. Sheriff Dalton looked away. Darlene saw him do it. Her voice sharpened. Don't look away now, Sheriff. You signed the letter saying the complaint had been reviewed. Dalton's jaw tightened. Ma'am, I signed many administrative letters. That one broke my boy, she said. He stopped driving at night after that. No one interrupted her. A man near the aisle stood next. My name is Leonard Hayes. My brother took a plea in 2019. He was told if he fought, Judge Whitmore would stack charges. Maya asked, "Who told him?" "County attorney. Said it was better to be practical than proud." Frank Bell muttered, "I've heard that line before." Leonard looked at him. "A lot of us have." Naomi kept recording, but her eyes kept moving from face to face. This was no longer one viral clip. It was a map of damage. Eleanor turned to Sheriff Dalton. "How many complaints involving Caleb Whitmore were referred to your Internal Affairs office in the last 5 years?" Dalton said, "I need to verify." Maya looked at him. "Start with the number that made you nervous." He exhaled. 23. A stir moved through the gallery. Eleanor asked, "How many resulted in discipline?" Dalton did not answer. Maya said, "Sheriff, none," he said. Darlene Price laughed once, bitter and broken. "Of course." Investigator Lane received another update on her phone. "Madam Attorney General, the church file box is secured. Preliminary count. 27 paper complaints. 9 intake sheets with altered docket numbers. 4 handwritten notes referencing A, W, and 3 referencing C." Maya looked at the sealed bodycam log. Arthur Whitmore and Caleb Whitmore. Judge Whitmore was no longer in the room, but his initials had stayed behind to testify. Marcus Reed stood beside his wife. "Is mine in there?" Lane checked the message. "Yes." Marcus Reed intake sheet, original complaint, and a note marked hold. Marcus closed his eyes. His wife whispered, "They can't say you made it up anymore." He shook his head. "They always could. That was the worst part." Maya stepped closer. "Not after today." Eleanor faced the room again. "The state will open a review into cases connected to these records. Some of you may be contacted by investigators. Some cases may go to civil court. Some may become criminal matters. I will not promise quick justice. Quick is how this county buried things. We are going to build this so it stands." That sentence settled people. It did not thrill them. It respected them. A younger man in the back spoke up. "What about those of us who signed pleas?" Maya turned. "A plea signed under pressure, without full evidence, may be challenged. Not all will be overturned. I will not lie to you. But every case connected to missing footage, altered records, or hidden complaints will be reviewed." The man nodded slowly. "That's more than we ever got." Sheriff Dalton's phone buzzed again. He looked at Eleanor before touching it. "Answer," she said. "Speaker." He did. "Dalton," a voice said. "Sheriff, media is asking if Deputy Whitmore is under arrest." Dalton looked at Eleanor. Eleanor answered for him. "Tell them. Deputy Whitmore has been detained pending formal charges connected to a state and federal civil rights investigation. No further comment until a written statement is released." The voice said, "Yes, ma'am." Before Dalton could hang up, the voice added, "Sheriff, officers are asking if they need counsel." Maya said, "Any officer who touched a file, deleted a log, changed a report, or discussed coordinating statements should get counsel." The line went quiet. Eleanor nodded to Dalton, and he ended the call. Frank Bell looked at Maya. "You just made half the sheriff's office check their phones." Maya said, "Good. Maybe the other half will check their conscience." A small sound moved through the room. Not laughter exactly. Something closer to relief. Then the side door opened, and Clara Jenkins returned with 2 federal marshals. She carried nothing now. The file box was not in her hands. It had been sealed and taken into custody, but she looked lighter than when she left, as if the weight had moved from her chest into evidence bags. Eleanor asked, "Miss Jenkins, are you prepared to give a sworn statement today?" Clara nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Judge Whitmore's absence made her braver, but shame still pulled at her voice. "I want the record to say, I knew some of it was wrong." Maya answered softly, "Then say it fully." Clara looked toward the gallery. "I changed dates when I was told. I reclassified complaints when I was told. Sometimes I told myself it was clerical. Sometimes I told myself the judge knew better. Sometimes I told myself if I lost my pension, I would have nothing," Darlene Price said. "And our sons lost everything." Clara bowed her head. "Yes." The room tightened. Maya did not rescue Clara from that. Accountability had to hurt where silence had lived. Clara lifted her face again. I can't undo it, but I can identify every file I touched. Eleanor nodded. That is where you start. Marcus looked at Clara. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke quietly. You should have done it sooner. Clara's eyes filled. I know, but you're doing it now. She nodded once. Maya looked at both of them and felt the shape of the day shift. Justice was not clean. It did not arrive like a hymn. Sometimes it arrived late, carrying guilt, evidence, anger, and people brave enough to be ashamed in public. Investigator Lane approached Eleanor with another note. Federal coordination confirmed. Civil Rights Division will join the review. Formal charge recommendations for Caleb Whitmore are being drafted. Unlawful detention, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, unlawful seizure of press material, destruction of evidence, and violations under color of law. Eleanor looked at Maya. Anything else? Maya's eyes moved to Marcus, Naomi, Clara, Sheriff Dalton, and the sealed evidence. Add retaliation against counsel. Lane nodded. Sheriff Dalton's face changed. That puts the department in deeper. Maya looked at him. No, your department put itself there. We're just naming the floor. Naomi's phone buzzed again. She glanced down, then looked at Frank. He asked, How many? She swallowed. 4 million. No one cheered. 4 million people were watching a county learn what its own citizens had known for years. Eleanor turned to Maya. We need a statement before the crowd outside writes this for us. Maya nodded. Short, factual, no victory lap, Frank said. That'll disappoint the internet, Maya replied. Justice is not a performance. Marcus looked at her. Then what is it? Maya looked at the monitor where the bodycam image still showed Marcus beside the patrol car. Hands visible, truth finally restored. Justice, she said, is what remains after the performance fails. Eleanor absorbed that, then turned to the room. We are adjourned under state supervision. Investigators will remain. Witnesses will be contacted in order. No one leaves with evidence. No one destroys evidence. And no one in this courthouse is above the law today. Maya gathered her clean copy of the read file. The crushed original stayed sealed. It belonged to the case now. As people began to move, Darlene Price stopped beside her. Miss Williams? Maya turned. Yes, ma'am. My son used to say nobody would ever read what happened to him. Maya's voice softened. Tell him I will. Darlene nodded, then walked toward Investigator Lane. Across the room, the empty bench stood untouched. No gavel, no robe, no voice telling people to sit down. For once, the people of Ashford County were not being dismissed. They were being recorded. By late afternoon, the courthouse doors opened to a crowd that had not been there that morning. News vans lined the curb. Church elders stood beside teachers from Marcus Reed's old school. Retired men in baseball caps watched from the sidewalk with their arms folded. Mothers held phones. Young people streamed live. Older people simply stood and stared at the building as if it had finally been forced to answer for itself. Maya Williams came out beside Attorney General Eleanor Grant. Not ahead of her, not behind her. Her wrists still carried faint red marks from the cuffs, but her voice was steady when the microphones rose toward her. Eleanor spoke first. This morning, during a civil rights hearing involving Marcus Reed, evidence was damaged. Counsel was unlawfully removed. Press material was seized, and a court employee disclosed possible long-term record tampering. Deputy Caleb Whitmore has been detained pending formal charges. Judge Arthur Whitmore has been removed from access to court systems pending judicial conduct review and criminal evaluation. The Office of the Georgia Attorney General, in coordination with federal authorities, has secured court records, bodycam archives, complaint files, and related evidence. A reporter called out, Madam Attorney General, is this about race? Eleanor looked at Maya. Maya stepped to the microphones. This is about the law, she said. And when the law is applied differently to black citizens, poor citizens, and people without power, then yes, it is also about race. The crowd went quiet. Another reporter asked, Were you targeted because you are black? Maya did not rush her answer. I was called a black girl from Atlanta before I was treated like a lawyer. I think the record speaks clearly. Frank Bell stood near Naomi Brooks, both of them listening. Naomi's video had passed 6 million views before the sun began dropping behind the county buildings. But she did not look excited. She looked tired in the way witnesses look tired when a recording becomes a wound everyone can see. A woman shouted from the crowd, "What about our sons?" Maya turned toward her. "Every complaint recovered today will be reviewed. Every case connected to missing footage, altered records, or hidden misconduct will be examined. I cannot promise every pain will be repaired, but I can promise this. Your words will not be sent back to the same desk that buried them." Darlene Price, standing near the front, began to cry. Not loudly, just enough that the woman beside her put an arm around her shoulders. Marcus Reed stood behind Maya with his wife. He had been asked if he wanted to speak. He had said no at first. Then he saw 3 former students across the street, all grown now, all looking at him the way he had once hoped they would. He stepped forward. "My name is Marcus Reed," he said. The cameras turned. "I did not resist arrest. I said it that night. I said it in my kitchen. I said it to my wife. I said it in this courthouse. Today, people finally heard why I had to keep saying it." His voice broke, but he did not stop. "I taught history for 18 years. I told kids that institutions only work when people inside them tell the truth. I forgot to tell them the second part. They also work when people outside them refuse to stop asking for it." Maya looked down for a moment. That sentence did what applause could not. A reporter asked, "Mr. Reed, do you feel justice was done today?" Marcus looked back at the courthouse. "No. Today they found the door. Justice is what happens if they walk through it." That became the line every network played that night. By morning, Ashford County was no longer a local story. It was on state news, then national morning shows, then veterans pages, church forums, teacher groups, civil rights feeds, legal podcasts, and family group chats where people over 45 typed long messages about things they had seen in their own towns and never forgotten. Caleb Whitmore was formally charged 2 days later with unlawful detention, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, unlawful seizure of press material, destruction of evidence, retaliation against counsel, and civil rights violations under color of law. His mugshot looked nothing like the man who had stepped on Maya's file. In the photograph, he looked confused that a badge had stopped protecting him. Judge Arthur Whitmore resigned before the Judicial Conduct Board could suspend him publicly. It did not save him. The investigation into altered records, hidden complaints, and interference with bodycam archives widened by the week. His name disappeared from the courtroom schedule, then from the courthouse directory, then from the plaques on the wall. Sheriff Dalton kept his job only long enough to cooperate. His department was placed under state supervision pending federal review. Bodycam footage could no longer be stored under local-only access. Complaints against deputies were routed to an independent office. Every contempt order from Judge Whitmore's courtroom over the last decade was flagged for review. Plea agreements connected to missing footage were reopened. The word informal handling became evidence, then scandal, then a warning. Clara Jenkins gave 3 sworn statements. She cried through the first one, shook through the second, and in the third, she brought names without being asked. She retired quietly, but not with peace. Peace was too generous. What she received was something harder and more honest, the chance to stop lying before her final day. Naomi Brooks never sold the video. 3 networks offered money. 1 streaming company offered more than she made in a year. She turned them all down. Frank asked her why. Naomi said, "Because it doesn't belong to me." Frank nodded. "Whose is it?" She looked at the frozen image on her laptop. Caleb's boot on the file. Maya staring at him. The room watching. It belongs to everybody who was told the record didn't matter. Weeks later, Marcus Reed's charge was dismissed with prejudice. The county issued a formal apology, written in language so careful it nearly hid from itself. Marcus read it once, folded it, and put it in the kitchen drawer beneath old church bulletins and grocery coupons. His wife asked, "You don't want to frame it?" He shook his head. "No, I want to outlive it." Maya returned to Ashford County 3 months later for the first review hearing. This time, no one called her some black girl from Atlanta. No one told her she did not belong. No one stepped on her file. At the entrance, Darlene Price was waiting with her son, Terrence. Marcus Reed stood nearby with 2 former students. Naomi held a notebook instead of a phone. Clara Jenkins sat in the back row, hands folded, watching the new clerk type every word. Eleanor Grant met Maya at the table and placed a clean folder in front of her. "Ready, boss?" she asked. Maya looked at the bench. A temporary judge sat there now. No family ties, no local favors, no son in uniform guarding the lie. Maya opened the file. "Ready," she said, and the hearing began the way the first one should have begun, with evidence, with witnesses, and with a room full of people no longer willing to look at the floor. Because justice is not fair just because powerful men promise it is. Justice becomes fair only when ordinary people refuse to let the powerful define it alone. So, if you had been sitting in that courtroom, watching a young black woman get dragged out for telling the truth, would you have looked down at the floor, or would you have stood up and made sure the whole room knew justice still had witnesses? The lesson from this story is simple, but powerful. Justice does not protect itself. It needs witnesses. It needs courage. It needs ordinary people who refuse to stay silent when power is used to crush the weak. Maya Williams did not win because she shouted the loudest. She won because she stood firm, kept the truth alive, and forced the record to speak. And sometimes, one person refusing to bow is enough to make an entire room remember what justice is supposed to mean. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of this story. Your time, your attention, and your heart mean more than words can say. If this story touched you, please leave a comment and tell us what you thought about the way it was told. Was the pacing right? Did the characters feel real? Was there a moment that stayed with you? And if you have a powerful story about injustice, courage, family, loyalty, betrayal, or justice finally being served, please share it with our channel. Your story might be the next one that helps someone feel seen, heard, and less alone. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.